Good morning, good evening. Last night's verse was one of just a good one for Thanksgiving for this week. And this morning I read Nehemiah 12. I've been going through Nehemiah slowly, and I was getting bogged down with all the names. It's just a big list of names of priests and Levites, but it's interesting too. It's the singers, it's gatekeepers, different lists of names. And as I went along, I was struck by the songs of thanksgiving that Mattaniah, with his associates, he was in charge of the songs of thanksgiving. And then that's in verse 8. And then a little further down, the leaders of the Levites, and it lists people. There were those who stood opposite each other to give praise and thanksgiving, one section responding to the other as prescribed by David, the man of God. That's verse 24. Then in 27, it talks about the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem and how they came together to celebrate joyfully the dedication with songs of thanksgiving and with the music of cymbals, harps, and lyre. The singers also were brought together, and there's a big description of that. The singers, they had villages that they built for themselves around the city of Jerusalem. Nehemiah, I had the leaders, verse 31, I had the leaders of Judah go up on top of the wall. I also assigned 2 large choirs to give thanks. One was to proceed on top of the wall to the right, and then later, further down, it talks about the second choir. In verse 38, it proceeded in the opposite direction. And then in verse 40, it says the 2 choirs gave thanks, then took their places in the house of God. And so did I. And it goes on and talks about and there are musical instruments that are spoken of as well, trumpets, and it says that the musical instruments that were prescribed by David, the man of God, were also used. The sound of the rejoicing was heard from far away that was going on in Jerusalem that day. The choirs sang under who they sang under, and this was the thing that struck me too, that I'm trying to get to, is that they offered great sacrifices, rejoicing because God had given them great joy. The women and children also rejoiced. The sound of rejoicing in Jerusalem could be heard from far away. That was verse 43. So the fact that it wasn't just thanksgiving, it wasn't just something that came from their mouth, but that they brought things. There's a description here that goes on about the contributions that were brought, the first fruits and tithes, and those ministering, and they performed the service of their God, and all Israel contributed the daily portions for the singers and gatekeepers. They set aside the portions, and so there was this bringing and this giving and generosity that was happening in the midst of their thanksgiving and songs of praise. So I don't know, that's not really something that I've heard spoken of really. Just that picture of those two going hand in hand, the giving of thanks, verbal thanks, but the physical giving that goes with that, and that sacrificial giving. They offered great sacrifices, verse 43. Anyway, just a thought for this Thanksgiving week.